Picture, just for a second, a thick sheet of glass. It looks incredibly strong, completely unyielding, right? But what happens when you hit it with enough force? It shatters into 1,000 pieces. Now picture a stalk of bamboo. It looks thin, almost fragile, but when a massive storm hits, it bends completely to the ground and then just springs right back up. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to fundamentally change how you view mental toughness. We are moving away from that fragile glass and embracing the true flexible nature of resilience. Okay, let's dive into our source material for today. We're exploring the comprehensive work of Prof. Dr. Ayşe Bilge Selçuk, a renowned developmental psychologist, on the science of psychological resilience. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter right now? Well, just look around. Our world is going through massive, unprecedented shifts. We're navigating the aftermath of a global pandemic, the realities of climate change, mass migrations, and honestly, just the relentless, exhausting pace of our digital world. The need to adapt has literally never been more vital, and this book gives us the exact roadmap to do it. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll uncover the true meaning of resilience. Second, flexibility, vulnerability, and control. Third, insights from the famous Dunedin study. Fourth, practical tools and Stoic philosophy. Fifth, how to foster resilience in children. And finally, the power of ordinary magic. Let's get into it. Section 1. The true meaning of resilience. Let's clear up exactly what resilience is and, honestly, what it definitely isn't. Notice the contrast here between an unbreakable shield and the dynamic process of recovering. You know, we often trick ourselves into thinking that resilience means acting like an emotionless rock. We think it means putting on this heavy armor, never crying, and being a perfect, impenetrable wall against the world. But Professor Dr. Selçuk's research shows that this is actually a recipe for shattering. The reality is that resilience is a highly dynamic, active process. It means it's perfectly okay to feel so sad you can't get out of bed one day, as long as you can find the strength to take just one tiny step the next. Sometimes resilience is literally crying your eyes out and then gathering yourself to make a cup of tea. It's all about adaptation, not suppression. Moving on to Section 2, flexibility, vulnerability, and control. So how do we actually adapt and allow ourselves to be vulnerable? Let's look at the psychological pillars that make this dynamic recovery possible. The absolute foundation here is something called cognitive flexibility. And this brilliantly brings us back to our bamboo metaphor from the beginning. Bamboo is actually used across Asia to build houses and furniture that bear incredible weight. It's not strong because it's rigid, it's strong precisely because it bends. In our own minds, cognitive flexibility is the ability to pause and ask, hey, is there an alternative explanation here? When our minds are rigid, we see every problem as a complete catastrophe. But when we're flexible, we can view a stressful event from multiple angles, which keeps us from getting stuck in a toxic spiral of anxiety. But being flexible requires opening yourself up, which brings us to vulnerability. I absolutely love this visual of the lobster. A lobster is a really soft creature that lives inside a hard, rigid shell. As it grows, that shell becomes agonizingly tight. To survive and grow, the lobster has to courageously go hide under a rock, shed its hard shell, and expose its softest, most vulnerable self to the ocean while it grows a new one. We are exactly the same. To adapt to new, scary environments, we have to drop our emotional armor. We have to be willing to say, I don't know, or I'm hurt. That vulnerability isn't a weakness. It's literally the biological prerequisite for growth. Section 3. The Dunedin Study Insights. To really grasp the impact of these traits, we have to look at the hard data for long-term insights. Take a look at this breakdown of the monumental Dunedin study. This was an incredible project in New Zealand that tracked over 1,000 people from birth straight into their 40s. Initially, researchers assumed that a child's IQ or their family's wealth would determine their future success. Well, they were wrong. The absolute #1 predictor of a good life was self-regulation, or effortful control, basically the ability to manage your emotions and behaviors. Kids with high self-regulation grew into adults who literally aged slower, had way better physical health, made and saved more money, stayed out of trouble, and became warmer parents. Self-regulation is the ultimate master key to a resilient life. But here is the most empowering takeaway from this entire explainer. If you're sitting there thinking, well, I was terrible at controlling my emotions as a kid, so I guess I'm doomed, don't worry. The study revealed that self-regulation is not a fixed, static trait. Your brain's prefrontal cortex, which handles this effortful control, maintains its plasticity well into adulthood. Meaning, if you put in the effort, you can actually train your brain to become more resilient and better regulated right now, regardless of your age. Section 4. Practical tools and Stoic philosophy. We know it's possible to change, so let's get into the practical applications and the actual tools we can use every single day. The source material highlights several highly effective daily practices. For example, engaging in art and creativity puts you in a state of flow, which gives your body a biological break from stress. Humor allows you to step back and look at your problems from a distance. Gratitude physically lowers your cortisol levels. But I really want to highlight physical exercise. Studies show that physical activity, regardless of what kind it is, directly strengthens the brain's cognitive control centers. By simply moving your body, you are literally building the mental brakes you need to stop anxious thoughts right in their tracks. The author also beautifully connects modern psychology to ancient Stoic philosophy, specifically the dichotomy of control. Think of an archer. An archer can train relentlessly, pick the best bow, and aim perfectly. That's entirely in their control. But once that arrow leaves the bow, a sudden gust of wind might blow it completely off course. The wind is completely out of their hands. Resilience is knowing the difference. When we waste our emotional energy screaming at the wind, like getting furious over a delayed flight or someone else's bad mood, we just burn out. Resilient people focus 100% of their energy on how they aim the arrow, their own thoughts and behaviors.
And this brings us to a brilliant insight from the Stoic philosopher and Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. This quote perfectly mirrors modern cognitive behavioral therapy. You see, the traffic jam didn't make you angry. Your judgment that this traffic shouldn't be happening and is ruining my day is what made you angry. When we catch these cognitive distortions, when we realize that our thoughts are just thoughts, not absolute truths, we instantly widen our tolerance window. We take our power back.
Section 5. Fostering resilience in children. Now, how do we foster the next generation and pass these incredibly powerful tools down to them? To raise resilient kids, we have to teach them a skill called mentalization. This simply means the ability to understand that what I'm feeling right now is a specific mental state and that other people have their own totally different mental states. But we can't just lecture them about this. We actually have to model it. If parents constantly hide their own sadness or fear to protect their children, the kids learn that negative emotions are dangerous and have to be hidden. By showing safe, manageable vulnerability, like admitting we're tired or frustrated but handling it calmly, we teach kids that all feelings are perfectly natural and survivable.
So, what's a super practical way to do this every day? Storytelling. When you read a book or watch a movie with a child, pause for a second and ask them questions. Hey, how do you think that character feels right now? Or why do you think they did that? Could there be another reason? This simple little routine forces the child's brain to practice cognitive flexibility. They learn to step into someone else's perspective, which expands their emotional vocabulary and lays the groundwork for a highly adaptable mind.
Section 6. The power of ordinary magic. Let's pull all of this together to examine the power of relationships and what makes humans so remarkably durable.
You might think that surviving immense trauma requires some kind of rare superhuman strength. But leading resilience researcher Ann Maston actually calls resilience ordinary magic, because it doesn't come from being extraordinary. It arises naturally from the very basic, everyday human systems we've just been talking about. It comes from having just one good friend to talk to, a daily walk that clears your head, a sense of humor when things go south, and the ability to just take a deep breath. It's those everyday relationships and basic adaptive tools that weave a safety net strong enough to catch us when we fall.
To wrap things up, Prof. Dr. Selçuk uses this incredibly beautiful Turkish word, süzülmek, which means to glide. Resilience isn't about exhausting yourself trying to fight the wind, it's about adjusting your wings to the currents. This deeply echoes the final reflections in the book on human potential, drawing from Nazım Hikmet's famous poem, Yaşamaya Dair, On Living. Hikmet writes that living is no laughing matter. You must live with great seriousness, like a squirrel, expecting nothing from outside but pouring your whole self into life. True resilience is precisely this, taking life seriously enough to adapt, to let go of rigid thoughts, and to keep gliding forward no matter the turbulence. So what rigid thoughts will you let go of today to catch the breeze? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.